Ice Cube,
Dr. Dre,
the Beastie Boys.
I want to show you something. This is one of the most important pieces of vinyl ever printed.
Godfather of soul, Mr. Dynamite.
On it is one of the most sampled drum breaks of all time. A piece of music that has been chopped up, recycled, and reimagined in countless ways over the past 50 years. But what is this groove and what makes it so enduring? Why does it continue to inspire and captivate musicians and fans around the world? And can I pull off this groove on the drums myself? Today, as we journey deeper into this groove, we'll discover its fingerprints on songs that you will not expect, taking over the radio waves time and time again. Trust me, the story behind it all is as mesmerizing as the beat itself. So in order to answer all of these questions, we first need to look all the way back at the surprising story of James Brown and how this drum break came to be.
Let's all welcome the world's godfather of soul, soul brother number one, James Brown! James Brown!
Before he became the godfather of soul, James Brown was just a boy growing up in Georgia in the 30s and 40s.
My little life was very hard. I had to pick up nickels and dimes to pay the rent, and had to dance with the soldiers, and my mother and father was had almost no education.
He began singing in church choirs and talent shows as a young boy. In fact, James was convicted of grand theft auto as a teenager and sent to a juvenile detention center. But while he was there, he formed a gospel quartet with his cellmates before he was paroled 3 years later. Shortly thereafter, James Brown was invited to join a vocal group called the Avons. After a couple of name changes,
Where the Starlight
Famous Flames!
Famous?
Flames.
Where the Famous Flames?
in 1956, the group caught a break. That year, the Famous Flames recorded their single, Please, 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 which became their first chart hit and helped launch their career. What really set the song apart was its raw energy and intensity. Brown's vocals are filled with emotion, and the song's simple melody and rhythm make it easy to dance to. Please, Please, Please was also notable for its use of call and response vocals, which would become a signature element of James Brown's music. That's a bit of foreshadowing for what we'll be talking about later. The song features Brown singing a line, followed by the Famous Flames responding with a harmonized refrain. This technique helped create a sense of tension and excitement in the song, and it became a hallmark of Brown's signature style. Over the next few years, James Brown and the Famous Flames became known for their electrifying live shows, which featured Brown's signature dance moves, soulful vocals, and tight, funky rhythms. By now, James Brown had become the lead singer of the group.
I don't understand. Is this some sort of mistake?
James Brown and his Famous Flame?
When management advised them to change their name, the rest of the band quit.
Come on. Let's get out of here.
Now, here's where things get really interesting. By the mid-1960s, James Brown was at a crossroads. He was achieving great success with his soulful R&B sound, but he was looking to take his music in a new direction.
Soul, S-O-U-L.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I? Now, you wouldn't agree with that?
Rock and roll, I don't know.
Oh, should I change it to soul? Should it be soul?
He wanted to create something that was harder, funkier, and more rhythmically complex. So he began experimenting with new sounds, new rhythms, and new instruments. One of the first songs to emerge from this experimentation was
Papa's got a brand new bag.
Released in 1965, the song marked a major shift in James Brown's music. It was faster, harder, and funkier than anything he had recorded before. The song featured a complex, syncopated groove that was anchored by a driving bass line and a propulsive drum beat, and it was all held together by an incredible group of musicians. But as we'll see, James Brown wasn't content to rest on his laurels. He continued to experiment and innovate, like with his song Get Up.
I want to get up and do my thing. Yeah.
It featured some of his most iconic vocals as he shouted and screamed his way through the song.
Like a sex machine.
The song was a funk masterpiece, featuring a driving up-tempo groove that was built around a funky bass line, tight horn stabs, and a relentless drum beat.
1, 2, 3, 4. Get up, get on up, get up, get on up, get on up.
But perhaps the most significant of all James Brown's funk songs was Cold Sweat. Released in '67, the song was a slow-burning, simmering groove that was built around a propulsive drum beat and a sparse, funky bass line. I mean, just take a listen to this. And as famous and infectious as this drum break is, no, it still isn't the groove masterpiece we're talking about today. Stay with me, this will all make sense in a moment. Now, James Brown had worked and recorded with a number of legendary drummers up to this point, including the most recorded drummer of all time, Bernard Purdie. In fact, recently I interviewed Bernard and he taught a masterclass for my drum hub students earlier this year. But get up in cold sweat. Both of these songs were held together by the incredible drumming of Clyde Stubblefield. Give it to me. Born and self-taught in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Clyde was playing professionally in local groups before he moved to Georgia, where he first would play with artists such as Eddie Kirkland and Otis Redding before James Brown saw Clyde perform and asked him to audition for his band.
Well, like that tune, I just got in the studio, myself in the booth, and started playing this riff.
When he joined James Brown in 1965, he became one of two drummers, alongside Jabo Starks. They each performed solo drums on the songs that matched their strengths and styles. That means you should subscribe if you want to learn about the magic behind Jabo Starks. Fast forward a few years, and in November of 1969, James Brown and his band gathered in a recording studio in Cincinnati, Ohio, to create one of the funk songs of all time, Funky Drummer. The song features a number of musical elements, including simple repeating horn and guitar riffs, a syncopated bass line, but you're about to hear how Clyde Stubblefield really sets the song apart.
One more time, I want to give the drummer some of this funky soul we got here.
His groove underpins the entire jam session before he delivers the legendary drum break that has shaped decades of music since. About 4 minutes into the song, James Brown tells his band,
"You don't have to do no soloing, brother, just keep what you got. Don't turn it loose, because it's a mother."
Brown's directions to Stubblefield are a testament to his musical genius. He could see the power and importance of the drum break that is about to come. Clyde Stubblefield delivers, and I don't think I have the words to describe the funk dripping off of this groove. Just take a listen.
1, 2, 3, 4, get it! God. Ain't it funky?
James is so impressed with what Stubblefield produces that he names a song on the spot.
The name of this tune is The Funky Drummer.
And the story from this point, as we're about to see, defined music history.
The Funky Drummer.
Now, we need to talk about the impact this groove has had on recorded music since, but before we can get to that, we have to break down what makes this beat so captivating. The thing about this groove is that it has deep roots in music history itself, and we're going to talk about that. But first, check this out. One of the remarkable things about Clyde Stubblefield's groove is how the hi-hat propels the whole beat forward. He's playing 16th notes with his right hand on the hi-hat throughout the entire beat, which at this speed is not easy. Take a look at this. Now here's another thing I love about this groove. The kick drum pattern just propels everything forward beautifully. So take a listen to this. I'm going to start with 2 and 4 on the backbeat, and then I'm going to bring in the kick drum. Here's where the magic really lies. It's all about the ghost notes, which are the perfect texture to add subtlety, syncopation, and movement that complement the kick and backbeat perfectly. Okay, but there's something else that is just so crazy. It's the secret sauce to it all. What Clyde Stubblefield does is he gets these incredible hi-hat splashes. He's doing that by lifting his foot up very subtly while playing those 16th notes, and it lets this little bit of air just psh, psh, let me know if you get that reference in the comments, into the hi-hat, and it's the most wonderful thing. Now, the techniques to get this just right can be surprisingly difficult. Everything from the right hand endurance to the deceptively tricky left foot hi-hat work, it all takes careful attention to detail. If you're struggling with the techniques involved and want to dive in deeper, you can watch my free technique fundamentals lessons on my website. I'll leave a link in the description below, and once you check that out, we gotta keep moving.
Check this out.
Because the crazy thing is that the story of this beat just keeps going from here. This single groove has influenced and transformed music in ways that nobody could have predicted.
I didn't see that coming, James.
It's been the secret sauce of artists and producers for decades. It's that special ingredient that just makes everything better.
That was delicious. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Look at this. How and why did this even happen? To me, there are 6 main ingredients that make it work so well in so many different genres of music. But wait, we know by now that James Brown was the godfather of soul and the architect of funk, but now we have a new mystery. Was this the DNA of hip-hop too? This is where my research gets a little fuzzy, so stick with me. The early days of hip-hop in the late 70s and early 80s were very underground and samples were often not cleared, so I failed to come up with any recorded use of the Funky Drummer sample until 1985, with the single The Classy MCs. Even though this is complete conjecture on my part, I wasn't even born yet. I'm sure the Funky Drummer beat was being sampled by DJs and producers earlier than this because just a year later, James Brown releases In the Jungle Groove in 1986, a compilation album that, according to my sources, was James Brown's response to the popularity of his music and hip-hop sampling already. Even though it was never a hit itself, Funky Drummer is track 2 on this compilation. But much more importantly, as you're about to see, track 5 is the Funky Drummer bonus beat reprise, which starts with an edited, looped version of Clyde Stubblefield's drum break that plays unhindered before James Brown's vocals start to sparsely creep in about 8 bars later. Listen to this. James Brown, who was born in the 30s and grew up singing gospel and soul, is practically rapping on top of this beat with his edited, chopped up vocals. Remember, this recording session was from way back in 1969. This bonus beat version was the perfect setup for producers and DJs to start spinning the record and sampling the beat into other genres. And James Brown's strategy clearly worked here because this is the turning point where Funky Drummer takes off. Let's take a tour of some of the songs you know that sampled this groove.
But I want y'all to know one thing. Be heavily blessed. Oh yes, look at this wicked.
Okay, here's the question. Why did it work its way into so many songs we love today? Now, my own answer might seem way out there unless I explain the other reasons first. Number 1, at the heart of Funky Drummer is an irresistible groove and an infectious sense of rhythm. Stubblefield's drumming is funky, tight, with precise syncopation and an unmistakable pocket that immediately draws you in. 2, this break just bursts with energy. Stubblefield's drumming has an intensity to it that pushes the beat forward and injects a sense of urgency into the music. The kick drum is punchy, and the snare has a snap and unmistakable tone that cuts through any arrangement. 3, the beauty of this groove lies in its simplicity. It's an incredibly tricky beat to play on the drums, but from a listener's perspective, it's easy to comprehend and even sing along to, making it irresistibly catchy. 4, Stubblefield's drum pattern is deceptively straightforward, consisting of a groove that can be easily looped and adapted to fit various musical situations. Its simplicity allows artists and producers to build upon it, layering different instruments, samples, and textures to create their own unique soundscapes. 5, another crucial factor contributing to the break's widespread usage is its sample-friendly nature. The drum break occurs almost entirely on its own, only occasionally being punctuated by James Brown's vocals, which means that early hip-hop producers could extract the break and incorporate it into their own compositions, making it the ideal candidate for sampling. Here's the thing. The heart and soul of funk music isn't something that James Brown or Clyde Stubblefield and their peers invented. It's more like they rediscovered it for themselves and for us. You can trace the origins of funk back to the very cradle of humanity. The rhythms they explored and that we connect to so deeply are ingrained into our very DNA. Since our species originated in Africa, rhythm and drums were the earliest form of musical expression. And as early humans ventured beyond the continent, they embarked on a remarkable journey of musical discovery and invention over thousands of years. European music culminated in a tradition of rich harmony and masterful composers, while further east, we would see other strengths evolve, such as the beautiful microtonal explorations of Makam or Indian classical music. And while these musical paths took divergent but significant roots, Africa retained a profound connection to our collective musical origins. It was this rich tapestry of traditions that provided the foundation for the rhythmic journey that led us to funk. James Brown and Clyde Stubblefield, along with many other visionary musicians, used the medium of funk as a profound exploration of African culture and musical heritage.
It was almost like coming back home from being away or something like that. I really felt that I'd been there before. I guess my soul has always been there.
They recognized our deep roots in the rhythms and musical traditions of the continent and brought it to the forefront of American popular music in a new way. And as they drew inspiration from our earliest human memories, they crafted songs that not only captivated modern audiences, but also, as we'll see, paved a path for future generations to embrace and celebrate our species' enduring legacy of rhythm.
I think the black man is making a tremendous stride, not only in America, but throughout the world, you know, to be recognized as a man, other than just black, period, just being recognized as a man, you know. Because we're brothers regardless of our race, creed, or color.
And with the globalization of media and music reaching new heights in the 70s, the stage was set for hip-hop and other genres to take over the world, using inspiration from drummers anywhere in the globe. But that's a story from another continent, and you'll hear about it in this video right here.